like to answer this question with question number 10. The loan charge tackles so-called disguised remuneration arrangements using loans to avoid tax. It applies in the same way to people in the public and in the private sectors. A tax information and impact note published in 2016 and a report on disguised remuneration published in March 2019 both considered the impacts.
What more can be done to tackle the promoters of loan schemes who were making assurances to workers and businesses, even though the Treasury had made it clear that these schemes were unacceptable? Shouldn't they be brought to book, and have any of them been convicted yet?
Minister, my rather, I'm afraid, is absolutely right, and HMRC will continue to take, as it has been doing, firm action against those who promote tax avoidance schemes, and currently has, as he will know, and I think has been made public already, over 100 promoters under civil inquiry. It is important to be clear that although there were no criminal offences for promoting or marketing tax avoidance schemes specifically, HMRC may conduct criminal investigations and make referrals to prosecuting authorities where, for example, there's evidence that promoters have deliberately misrepresented the facts to HMRC.
Mr. Speaker, it is the case that perfectly innocent working people are caught in a terrible trap here, and already we have seen a number of suicides. HMCR said, and I quote, "Teams are trained to identify customers who are anxious, worried or need extra support to ensure that they get the help that they need." Can I ask the Minister to confirm whether these people have had this training? And can he also tell me, will a dedicated helpline be set up to help these people who are in huge amounts of stress?
The Honourable Gentleman is right that there is stress, but he should also be perfectly clear that a very large number of people have been using these systematic means to avoid paying tax, and the amount potentially payable is over £3 billion. And he should be protective of the tax base more widely when he reflects on these issues as well. He is right that HMRC is taking a careful steps to ensure that it protects and supports those who may be in genuine difficulty, and of course those who may also have other personal concerns can be referred to outside agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but the reality is that for many people caught up in this loan charge scandal, they were effectively missold in many cases, schemes that they were told had been QC vetted and were perfectly legal, and that I think is underlined by the fact that there are not actually criminal charges being pursued against any of these individuals who sold these. Isn't it time for this fresh minister to now take a fresh look at the Treasury's approach on all of this?
Minister! Well, the Honourable Lady is, I think, misstating the case. The facts are that in a very large number of these cases there was a disclosure of tax avoidance number associated with them. They knew that they were in schemes that were potentially subject, and every person is responsible for signing off their own tax return. She will be reassured, I trust, that recently 6 individuals were arrested on suspicion of promoting fraudulent loan charge arrangements, and that speaks to a wider picture.
Mr. Speaker, economic crime defrauds the exchequer of countless billions in revenues due. 2.5 years ago, the Ministry of Justice launched a call for evidence regarding corporate liability in this. Incredibly, as of this morning, they're saying they're still analysing the evidence that they've received. Clearly, cracking this is critical to the Treasury funding public services. So what are Treasury ministers doing to wake their colleagues up?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can only admire the ingenuity of a man who can crowbar in a question about the Ministry of Justice unrelated to the loan charge on this particular issue. But let me just point out to him that regardless of what pace may be with them, HMRC is taking tens of billions of pounds that are due for avoidance and evasion matters every year, and he should be very grateful and delighted as I am.
The loan charge authority claims evidence for 4 suicides related to the loan charge, and HMRC has referred itself with respect to 1. When I asked a parliamentary written question on the approach and the assessment the Treasury has made of the impact of this loan charge on the mental health of the people subject to pursuit now, the answer was, to put it mildly, less than satisfactory. So could the Minister now tell us what effect the Treasury believes their policy has had on the mental health of all the people subject to pursuit now in both the public and private sector?
Minister! Mr. Speaker, may I put on record my surprise that a former chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, with its concern for the public finances, should be taking this view. There are some people who may have been very adversely affected in mental health terms, and we must protect them at all times and with all the measures that we properly can. HMRC is attempting to do that. There is a much wider and larger number of people who are simply seeking to avoid paying tax due.
Nick Dakin. Mr. Speaker, people were told that they could work on particular jobs if they took on this way of remuneration. So what's going to be looked at that, and will he take on board what the member for Putney said and just have a fresh look at this?
May I just also remind the gentleman that there were other signs that indicated to people that they were in these tax avoidance schemes. For example, a very low or relatively low effective rate of tax. The signs were there, and people would have been right to pick up on them, and even if they were missold, that does not bear on the question of whether the tax is now due.
Mr. John Barr.